Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Peace be with you all. It's my pleasure to have this opportunity to share some thoughts at the Parliament of World Religions and contribute to your deliberations on the freedom of conscience and human rights. Now, the philosophical and theological foundations of contemporary human rights discourse has, of course, emerged out of a Eurocentric context informed by Christian visions of natural law and natural rights, giving way to more secular visions towards fulfilling the universal aspirations of the human rights discourse. Now, such an account sometimes seems controversial because particular theological and philosophical positions can be divisive, are not necessarily shared by humanity at large. But it seems to me that holding particular philosophical and theological foundations for the human rights discourse, be they rooted in Asian values, in Judaism, in Christianity, or indeed in Islam, or any other religious tradition, doesn't need to be divisive, so long as these theological and philosophical foundations are not seen as exclusive foundations. In fact, it seems that maintaining and advocating for the importance of diverse philosophical and theological resources are an imperative to broaden and deepen our human rights culture. Particular theological and philosophical foundations can be used to justify, to help secure, and to protect the rights of those who need them most. And particular theological and philosophical foundations can help us explore and even resolve many of the tensions and controversies that arise when we are seeking to uphold and apply human rights regimes. So although fundamental to human rights discourse is that each and every individual, as an individual, has inherent worth and dignity, in our world of difference and diversity, we cannot assume that only one vision of what it means to live with dignity has all the answers. It seems that with the scale of our global challenges, whether this be with regards to human rights, the climate crisis, or the explosion of ethical challenges with the developments of new technologies, there is a human imperative for us to be open to learn through each other. Now, in Islam and in Shia thought in particular, there are a vast array of resources for grounding, securing, and thinking about human rights and the freedom of conscience. Amongst these, and centrally maybe, is its holistic vision of justice. So Islam's scriptural conceptions of justice are not limited to political justice. Instead, Islam seeks to position justice and beyond it beauty as a basis for all our relationships between governed and the governor, amongst families and friends, interpersonal relationships more widely, and maybe most fundamentally, justice with regards our relationship with our own self. Now, in Shia thought in particular, divine justice is something which is emphasized as a fundamental principle of belief. God is just in a substantive and rationally understandable sense. So this comes with a meta-ethical principle that justice itself is something which is intelligible, understandable to humans, independent of revelation. This moral rationalism, this principle that basic morality is universal and can be understood irrespective of religion and irrespective of culture, has a breadth of implications relevant to the grounding of human rights and the freedom of conscience from an Islamic perspective. I'll mention briefly just three. Accepting a moral rationalism that humans have the ability to understand what is praiseworthy and what is blameworthy, even if this be around basic questions of morality, allows us to have a check on the interpretation of religion. So whether that be with regards to women's rights, apostasy, rules and regular religious teachings around migration, asylum seeking, and the treatment of the other, if any of our historical understandings of religion conflict with shared universal understandings of morality, those historical understandings need to be revisited. For no immoral, unjust ruling or law can be attributed to a moral or just God. So immoral rationalism and a substantive vision of divine justice allows us to have a critical reading of historical religion. Secondly, this moral rationalism allows us to realize the role of particular religious teachings when we look at the human community of diverse belief. For accepting that humans have the ability to understand basic principles of morality independent of revelation allows us to understand the instrumentality of particular religious teachings, that they aim to point us and direct us towards the pursuit and the fulfillment of shared universal moral truths. Thirdly, the principle of divine justice and its associated meta-ethical principle that justice is rational and intelligible to humans insofar as they are human, can ground an Islamic conception of the freedom of conscience. For a just God does not compel faith, as the Quran states, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَأَمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا. Had your Lord wished, He would have made everybody on the earth in its entirety believe. Of course, God did not do so. Freedom of conscience is a divine mandate. A just God could not and does not impel faith. And accordingly, it seems we too, the human community, needs to preserve and promote space both for the freedom to believe, and despite the challenges of hate speech and the mockery of religion, people of faith need to promote and secure the space to not believe. It is only through free and conscientious pursuit of truth and pursuit of justice in society, in our interpersonal relations, and with regards to ourselves, that we can fulfill the beautiful potential in each of these religious traditions, learning through each other, promoting a global human rights regime, and advocating the freedom of conscience and belief. Thank you so much for listening to these words, and I wish you well for the rest of your deliberations in this wonderful convention.